All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. And Shalom to all the sincere believers, which includes the scattered Israelites who are amongst these other nations and look like these other nations. Now, this lesson is going to be about pride and how it is an abomination to the Lord, and how those who are proud are an abomination to the Lord. So through the Spirit, I'm going to read this precept and get a couple of definitions, and Lord's will, you're edified. So Proverbs 16:5, everyone that is proud in heart is an abomination to the Lord Yahweh. Though hand join in hand, he shall not be unpunished. And that's right. So everyone that's proud is an abomination to the Lord, especially these Edomites, these so-called self-proclaimed white people, because all they do is run around talking about their pride. You know, they're proud to be an American. They're proud to be so-called white. They're proud of this. They're proud of that. But like it says, everyone that is proud in heart is an abomination to the Lord. So clearly, that's not a good thing. Ecclesiasticus 10:7. Pride is hateful before Yahweh and man, and by both doth one commit iniquity. That's right, so the Lord hates pride. Yet another precept letting you know that having pride and being proud is not a righteous thing in the eyes of the Lord. Proverbs 16:18. Pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall. And if you look at the so-called white man, he's a prime example of that. Because right now, in regards to what's happening out there in the quote-unquote Middle East, you know, with this Israel, U.S., and Iran war that's happening, or conflict, or whatever people want to call it, you know, over here in the U.S., you got Trump and Pete Hegseth and Caroline Levitt, you know, in all their pride and in all of their arrogance, you know, boasting, talking about that, oh yeah, they're destroying those Iranians, they're decimating them, they're wiping out their military capabilities and all of this. You know, basically overestimating their own power and underestimating their enemy's power. And that's Esau for you. You know, these Edomites, they run around here talking about that America has the best military and they're the strongest, and you know, they're the world's police and they can do whatever they want and all of these things. And that pride and that arrogance and that boastful, wicked nature is just going to lead to their destruction. And they don't understand that. Like, they're just full steam ahead on this boastful, arrogant, proud train that they're on. And little do they know that ultimately they're going to lose. So I have the definition of abomination here. And it says, an abomination is something that causes intense disgust, hatred, loathing, or detestation, that it refers to a vile, shameful, or detestable action, person, habit, or condition, often used in religious or moral contexts to describe things that are extremely offensive or immoral. It can also refer to a widespread abominable thing. Yeah, so when it says it refers to a vile, shameful, or detestable action, person, habit, or condition, in this lesson, we're talking about Esau. So Esau is a vile, shameful person. And the Lord hates him. Even in the scriptures, it says, Jacob have I loved and Esau have I hated. Because Esau he's vile, he's shameful, he's arrogant, he's proud, he's immoral, he's just all across the board wicked. And that's this so-called self-proclaimed white man. It says, I asked the question, is Esau proud? And it says, yes, biblical tradition and commentators often describe Esau as proud, arrogant, and profane, godless. And that is Esau in a nutshell. He's proud, he's arrogant, he's godless, because these Edomites, they don't serve Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. They're over here worshiping Jesus, which Elder Malcolm broke that name down, and it means earth pig. So basically, in their wicked mind, they're over here calling the Lord, the Son of the Heavenly Father, earth pig, by calling him Jesus. That is extremely disrespectful. So when people want to talk about how these so-called white people are God-fearing, they're God-fearing Christians. No, they're not. No, they're not. They don't fear the Lord. Esau thinks he's above the Lord. Esau doesn't understand that the position that he's in, the Lord put him in. He didn't put himself there. All the military might that Esau has is because the Lord gave that to him. He didn't create that himself. Here, the scriptures tell us that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and he set up over it whomsoever he will. Oh, he set up over it the basest of man. Esau, the so-called self-proclaimed white man, is the basest of man. He's the lowest of the low. But yet they act like they're so, so dominant, so superior, so tough. They have all of this pride, all of this arrogance. They're always boasting about something, and all the things that they boast about are wicked. They boast about their military might and dropping bombs on people as if that's something to be proud of, and it's not. You murdering people is not something to be proud of. They'll boast about how, they took over America, slaughtered the natives, put them on reservations, enslaved so-called black people, lynched them, burned them. They're proud about that. They'll boast about that. Because they don't understand that all of that wickedness, it's gonna come back to bite them. All of that pride is gonna lead to their destruction. And we're seeing a good example of that with this whole Israel, US, Iran war. Because that's not going the way that they thought it would. And so many people have been saying that that these Edomites, they really thought that they were going to go over there, the U.S. and Israel, they were going to bombard Iran with bombs and missiles, and then those Iranians were just going to surrender to them. They were not expecting those Iranians to fight back, let alone to the extent that they have been. That's why very early on in this conflict, Trump called for a ceasefire, because he realized things were a lot more serious than what he had anticipated. But those Iranians told him no, because they didn't start this. They didn't strike Israel or any of the U.S. military bases in that region first. The U.S. and Israel struck them first, and they're merely defending themselves, and they have every right to do so. And because Trump realizes that he can't just back out of this, because that would make him look weak and stupid, which he is both, very much so. And he realizes that those Iranians are not about to surrender to him or to Israel. He has to get on TV along with Pete Hegseth and Caroline Levitt, and he has to lie to the American people and talk about, oh yeah, well, we're hitting them with an overwhelming force and all of these lies. They're trying so hard to convince you that they're winning, and they're not. Those Iranians have been prepared for them for the past 20 years, watching the U.S. go around, watching Esau, the so-called white man with his proud, arrogant self, go around, go to Afghanistan, go to Iraq, go to all of these different countries and go to war with them. Iran's been watching that play out. They've been studying the U.S. They've been getting very strategized. And now the U.S. and Israel come knocking on their door. And they're ready. Even, I believe it was the prime minister or somebody from over there in Iran, they did that TV interview. And the guy, the news anchor in America was telling the guy from Iran, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, that Trump is, considering putting, ground forces in Iran, boots on the ground. And the guy told him, he was like, hey, we're ready for them. We've been waiting for them. So these Iranians, they're not playing. They're letting Esau know, you wanted these problems. You wanted this smoke. You wanted this fight. Now you got it. And that's what Esau, the so-called white man, does not expect. He does not expect you to meet him on his turf in a sense of, in the sense of violence. Esau expects everyone to just be scared of him and cower, at his presence. And nobody is scared of Esau. Everyone just hates him. And he's starting to find that out. And those Iranians are a perfect example of that. That no one's scared of Esau. When Esau wants to enact some violence, there's plenty of other people that are with that. They're like, okay, let's do it then, if that's what you want. And Esau is not used to that. He's not used to people responding to him in the only language that he understands, which is violence. He's used to threatening people with war, and then them not wanting war, and then them, basically doing whatever he says. But we're in a time and season where, like it says in Ecclesiastes 3:1, to everything there is a season or a time. to everything under the heaven, you know. And then you jump down to verse 8, and it says, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And we are living in a time of war. And that's part of why the Lord put such a heavy spirit on those Iranians to just keep going. They're not about to surrender to America or to Israel. They'll go back and forth shooting missiles and drones back and forth. They'll do it all day. They don't care. The Lord put that war spirit on them. And Esau, the so-called white man over here in America and out there in Israel too, they're realizing that this was a bad idea, But as far as the American Edomite is concerned, their pride, their arrogance, that boastful nature, them running around thinking that they were just the toughest thing on the block, once again, has gotten them caught up in something that they were not prepared for. And now they have to deal with the consequences of that. And this also applies to anybody who has, who's proud. There's consequences that come along with that. Violent, deadly consequences that come along with that. Like I read in Proverbs 16 and 18, pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall. So if you're running around here talking about how proud you are of this, that, and the third, your destruction is right around the corner, because the Lord does not play that. Like I read earlier, everyone that is proud in heart is an abomination to the Lord. So you're a vile, shameful person in the eyes of the Lord if you're running around here being all proud and whatnot. Being proud is not a righteous thing. And all of these proud people, especially the most proud, which are these Edomites, these so-called self-proclaimed white people, they're going to be destroyed for that. And for all the wickedness that they've done through that pride and that arrogance. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakakudash, the water Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to all the sincere believers. Hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up. Adawan Ratazah. Until next time, Shalom.